Before you ever send a message, before your fingers even touch the screen, you have to confront the most fundamental question: who are you becoming? This isn't about her. This isn't about what she's thinking, or what she might be hoping, or whether she misses you. Those are distractions if you haven't first addressed yourself with brutal honesty. You see, longing for someone to reach back out, to respond, to validate your presence, none of that is stable ground to build your identity upon. You cannot outsource your sense of worth to the reactions of others. If you do, you'll be ruled by the shifting winds of their attention, and your confidence will always be conditional, fragile, hollow, and easily destroyed. Taking responsibility for your identity means you stop waiting for the world or for her to confirm that you're enough. You decide that your value isn't granted by another person's recognition. It's rooted in how you conduct yourself, in the choices you make when no one is watching, in the standards you hold yourself to, even when there's no external reward. Ask yourself, are you someone you respect? Would you admire the man you see in the mirror? Are your actions aligned with the person you claim you want to be? It's easy to hope someone texts back. It's comforting to imagine they're secretly thinking about you. But that hope can become a trap if it's masking deeper questions you've avoided. Because here's the hard truth. If your desire to reconnect is driven by a need for reassurance, then you haven't yet stabilized your identity. You haven't yet built the internal structure that says, even if she never texts again, I am not diminished. That kind of strength comes only through radical responsibility. Owning your flaws, confronting your weaknesses, disciplining your habits, and creating a life you're proud of without needing constant affirmation from someone else. Your identity is not something you passively discover. It's something you actively shape. And that shaping is not glamorous. It's not made of Instagram moments or well-worded texts. It's forged in discipline, in setting boundaries, in doing the work you know you've been avoiding. It's built in silence, not noise. It's built when you decide that your self-worth will not depend on the unpredictable behavior of another person, no matter how much you once shared or how deeply you felt. When you take responsibility for your identity, you stop asking, does she still care? And you start asking, am I becoming the man I respect? The irony is, the more you focus on becoming that man, the more you take ownership of your purpose, your health, your discipline, your direction, the more magnetic you become. Not because you're trying to manipulate someone into wanting you again, but because you radiate stability. People are drawn to those who do not need them to feel whole. People are drawn to those who lead themselves before trying to lead others. If she hopes you'll text again, let it be because you've grown into someone worth hearing from, not because you pleaded for a second chance, but because your life speaks for itself. Taking responsibility for your identity also means taking responsibility for your past. It means acknowledging where you went wrong in that relationship. Without wallowing, without self-pity, you face the truth of your mistakes and use them as fuel to change, not as anchors to drown in. You learn, you adapt, you improve, not to win her back, but because that's what a man does. He faces what is hard. He confronts what is painful. He chooses growth over comfort, purpose over ease. This is the deeper question, hidden in the silence between texts. Are you building a life that commands respect, or are you merely waiting for someone else to tell you that you matter? Because if you are waiting, you're not living. You're deferring your power. And your identity cannot thrive in deferral. It requires action. It requires vision. It requires that you lead yourself into the man you're meant to be, regardless of whether anyone is watching, acknowledging, or validating it. So take responsibility for your identity. Own it fully. Mold it relentlessly. Become so rooted in your purpose and growth that whether she texts again or not becomes irrelevant. Because once you truly know who you are and who you are becoming, you won't need permission to matter. You'll already be walking in it. Rejection is not the enemy. Rejection is a mirror. It reflects back to you not just the judgment of another person, but your own relationship with pain, your own beliefs about your worth, and your ability to withstand emotional discomfort without crumbling. When she doesn't respond, or when she walks away, or when she gives you silence where there once was connection, it feels like a blow to your chest. And it is. It's a wound. But the question is not whether rejection hurts. It always does. The question is whether you allow that hurt to reduce you or refine you. You have to face this with open eyes. Not everyone will want you back. Not everyone will care that you stayed up all night thinking about them. Not everyone will see the value in what you offered. That is life. That is reality. But your strength is measured not in how well you're liked, but in how well you stand when you are not. Rejection, in all its rawness, is the world telling you, not this way, not now, not like this. And instead of curling into bitterness or resentment, you are called to rise. Not because it feels good, but because it's necessary for your evolution. Courage in the face of rejection means you do not build your identity on whether someone accepts or discards you. If she doesn't text back, if she doesn't want to rekindle anything, if she's moved on, that is her decision. That's her right. You do not beg. You do not chase. You do not degrade yourself to win her back. Because the minute you do, you surrender your power. You turn your self-worth into a bargaining chip handed over in exchange for someone else's attention. And that is not love. That is dependence. That is desperation in disguise. True courage is choosing to accept the pain without letting it poison you. You feel it. You allow it to wash over you, but then you rise. You use the rejection not as evidence that you're broken, but as feedback that you are being shaped. You take inventory of who you were in the relationship. You analyze where you held back, where you failed to listen, where you let fear guide you instead of principle. And you change, not because you're trying to win someone back, but because you are committed to becoming someone stronger, wiser, more grounded. This is not weakness. This is the hardest thing a person can do, to look at their failure, their pain, their rejection, and say, this will not define me. It will refine me. It's easy to collapse. It's easy to numb out, distract yourself, jump into the next meaningless interaction just to soothe your ego. But none of that builds anything. That's just avoidance. And every time you avoid rejection by pretending it doesn't matter, you deny yourself the opportunity to grow. You cannot control whether she wants you again. That is outside your domain. But you can control how you carry yourself in the aftermath. Do you spiral, or do you steady your footing? Do you chase, or do you clarify your vision and return to building your life? The rejection then becomes a kind of test, not of her interest, but of your character. Are you the kind of man who folds when things don't go his way? Or are you the kind of man who keeps walking with resolve, with dignity, and with a willingness to continue becoming more than he was? Rejection teaches you emotional sovereignty. It teaches you that you are not entitled to someone's affection just because you want it. It teaches you that not everything you feel will be returned, and that this is not a death sentence. It's an invitation to deepen your own roots, to grow into someone who does not merely react, but who responds with integrity, with patience, and with unwavering self-respect. And in doing so, you become resilient, not invulnerable, but unbreakable in spirit. So don't be afraid of the silence. Don't be afraid of her absence. Let it press on you. Let it force you to see what still needs to be built in you. Use the rejection to strip away what is false, what is weak, what is unworthy of the life you claim to want. And then keep going with your head up, with your purpose intact, with the understanding that not every loss is a failure. Some are foundations. And you, if you choose to be, are still building one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into, especially after a relationship ends or communication fades, is the craving for validation. You begin to feel that if she texts back, it means you matter. If she misses you, it means you're still valuable. If she compliments you or likes your post or even glances your way, it gives you a reason to feel good about yourself again. And while this may feel like comfort, what it really is a dependency. It means your sense of worth is no longer rooted in who you are or how you live, but in how someone else sees you. And that is a deeply unstable foundation to build your life on. You have to be brutally honest with yourself. Are you looking for meaning, or are you just trying to get a reaction? Because there's a difference. When you crave meaning, you pursue a life of depth, purpose, and integrity. When you crave validation, you pursue moments of emotional sugar, quick highs that fade fast and leave you emptier than before. Validation is fleeting. It doesn't last. It's a hit of attention, and the second it's gone, you're left right back where you started, wondering who you are and if you matter. And the worst part? You're outsourcing that answer to someone else. Craving meaning means you're willing to delay gratification. It means you choose long-term growth over short-term approval. It means you don't just want to feel important for a moment. You want to become someone whose life stands for something real. And that requires letting go of the need to be constantly noticed, praised, or affirmed by people who may not understand your journey at all, including her, especially her. You cannot keep living for the possibility that she might look back, that she might remember how much you meant, that she might decide one day that you were worth choosing again. Because if that's the script you're playing on repeat, then you're not living in the present. You're stuck in limbo, hoping for external signs to give you permission to move forward. But that permission has to come from within. No one else can give it to you. No text, no smile, no second chance can replace the internal certainty that you are enough because of how you live, not who responds. Meaning is not glamorous, it's not dramatic, it's built in quiet decisions, waking up early to pursue your goals, choosing discipline over distraction, speaking the truth when it's easier to stay silent. It's built in keeping promises to yourself. And when you live this way, you don't need validation from anyone else, because your life begins to generate its own momentum. You don't have to prove your worth, you live it. And others will see it not because you shouted for attention, but because the strength of your character is unmistakable. Think carefully about this. If she texted you tomorrow, would you feel a sense of joy? Or would you feel a sense of joy? Or would you just feel relief that you're not being ignored anymore? That distinction matters. Relief is the emotion of someone who has been depending on another person for emotional oxygen. Joy is the emotion of someone who is already whole and welcomes others from a place of abundance, not emptiness. If all you're chasing is relief, you're not chasing her. You're chasing a break from your own insecurity. And that's why craving meaning over validation is such a profound shift. It's the moment you stop saying, I need her to see me, and start saying, I need to see myself more clearly. It's the moment you stop waiting for someone to tell you that you matter and start acting like you already do, because you do. but not by default, by choice, by the choices you make every day to build a life that speaks, a life that contributes, a life that's worthy of your own respect. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be whole, to be truthful, to be useful, to be aligned with something greater than ego, status, or attention. And when you live that way, when you seek meaning relentlessly, validation becomes irrelevant. You no longer crave the quick fix. You're building something permanent. And maybe, just maybe, that becomes the thing that people, including her, are drawn to. Not because you begged for it, but because it's real. So choose meaning. Choose substance over signals. Choose to become the kind of man whose life doesn't depend on being seen, but who is seen because of how he lives. That's the shift. That's the work. And that's the only way you'll ever feel truly whole, with or without her reply. Silence is not always absence. Sometimes it is presence at its most powerful. When she doesn't reply, when no message comes, when the space between the last conversation and the next stretches longer than your expectations can tolerate, you're left in a vacuum. And that vacuum can either consume you or forge you. The way you respond to silence determines whether it weakens or strengthens you. You must understand that silence is not your enemy. Silence is the training ground of strength, discipline, and transformation. Most people fear silence because it forces them to confront themselves. It leaves no room for distraction. In the silence, there's no confirmation of your worth, no reassurance, no soothing message that tells you you're still wanted, just stillness. And in that stillness, your thoughts become loud. Your insecurities rise to the surface. Doubts echo. Questions multiply. Did I matter? Did she move on? Is it over? But these questions aren't designed to be answered by her. They're designed to be answered by you. And not with speculation, but with action, clarity, and conviction. Letting silence be your strength means you resist the impulse to chase. You resist the temptation to fill the void with words she may not be ready to hear. You resist the emotional panic that says, do something, anything, just to get a response. Because true strength isn't about what you do in noise, it's about what you do in the quiet. Can you hold your ground when there's no applause? Can you stay centered when your emotions scream at you to react? This is the test. This is where men are separated from boys, not by muscle, not by bravado, but by composure. A man who knows his worth does not beg to be remembered. He does not try to prove his value through desperation. He embodies it through how he carries himself in the silence. He doesn't allow rejection, distance, or delay to shake his foundation. His self-respect is not up for negotiation. He understands that silence is not a cue to fall apart, but a challenge to rise. The world, and often relationships, will offer silence before they offer clarity. Don't misinterpret the quiet as meaninglessness. Instead, ask yourself, what am I doing with this silence? Are you using it to become bitter, anxious, distracted, or are you using it to reflect, to heal, to build? The silence is an opportunity to turn inward, to ask better questions, not about her feelings, but about your purpose, about your direction, about who you are becoming in the spaces where no one else can see. If she never texts again, what will you do? That is not a question to be feared. It's a question to be answered with strength. You will move forward. You will not dissolve. You will not cling to what is gone. You will grieve if you must, but then you will grow. That's what silence offers. An invitation to rebuild, to rise deeper into yourself. And ironically, that's when you become someone people remember, not because you made noise, but because you stood still with power when others would have collapsed. Letting silence be your strength also means you learn to listen to yourself, to your environment, to your instincts. You realize that not every message needs a reply. Not every moment of discomfort needs to be solved by contact. Sometimes the most profound transformation happens when you stop talking and start observing. You observe your patterns. You observe your triggers. You observe how much of your identity has been entangled in someone else's presence, and you begin the work of untangling, of reclaiming your independence, not with anger, but with calm. This is not detachment in the cold sense. It's not emotional numbness. It's maturity. It's the decision to stop reacting and start responding. It's the discipline to understand that you don't have to speak to be heard. You don't have to chase to be worthy. You don't have to fill the space just because it feels uncomfortable. Some of the strongest things ever built, iron, diamonds, character, were shaped in pressure and quiet. So let the silence mold you, not destroy you. Use it as fuel, not as a sentence. Let it be the space where you develop such internal depth, such clarity of purpose, that your need to be understood by others diminishes. You understand yourself, that's enough. And when that happens, when you no longer fear the silence, you become dangerous. In the best way. Because nothing outside of you controls you anymore. Let the silence speak. Let it stretch, let it test you, and let it be the forge that turns confusion into clarity, fear into focus, and longing into strength. You do not need to be loud to be powerful. You only need to be rooted, and nothing roots a man deeper than learning how to stand tall in the quiet.